Welcome to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. On this podcast, Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, show you how to make as much money as you want in private practice as a nurse coach. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Successful Nurse Coach podcast. It is Laura and Shelby with you here today, and we are here to spill the beans. We haven't spilled the beans about money in a long time. Laura and I, while brainstorming for this podcast episode, were talking about just what's been present in our mentorship groups, what's themes that have been coming up, and money is always one of them. Our relationship to money, how we view money, how we spend money, how we don't spend money. It's all a part of your business. And we have learned a lot. I would say for both of us, our money mindset has shifted significantly within the past 6 years. And we want to put our biggest takeaways in one place for you so that you can learn what it's taken us 6 years to learn in like 30 minutes. You can have the shortcut here. We mentioned some of these things in our preceptorship course, but I'm hoping that we get to expand upon them maybe a little differently here today on the pod.
Yeah, there's so much that we aren't taught about money. And if you think about where we learn about money first and foremost from our parents or our family of origin. We watched how they spent, how they talked about it, how they talked about people who had it, how they talked about the things that they wanted, whether they were stressed all the time, whether they shopped on the sale rack. There's all of our imprints and all of our learning about money primarily came from our parents. And then we maybe had some financial training depending on what profession we went into. But for the most part, what I find is that 90% of the population doesn't understand money at all. Mm-hmm. It's like first grade level understanding of money. And then hanging out with people that have more money or that have created more money, they always have a different mindset. And you can sense, oh, this person's at 5th grade, 6th grade. And our mentor, I would say, is probably one of the highest that we've spent time with. And so just being aware of financial literacy, not in the form that you think, but in truly understanding what money actually is. And we're going to talk about 10 things that you probably didn't know about money. Some of these are going to be super woo. Some of these are going to be out there. We're going to make them real. We're going to make them present. And at this date, it's 2024 in April. This is my best understanding of it. This is Shelby's best understanding of it. And hopefully in 5 years, we have more to add, because I think that it's something that you just understand and work with over time.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree. Well, let's start super casual for everyone here, Laura, and talk about the ego and money, because I feel like these go hand in hand. We can't separate them. And there is something that you've been in our sphere for a while. You've probably heard us say this, but that your ego will never let you become something that you don't like. And to kind of peel back the layers on that a little bit is, if you have judgments about people with money, if you have maybe not great interactions with wealthy people, if your parents didn't like quote unquote rich people, you will never consciously opt in to becoming that version of yourself. Right. So for instance, to make this a little bit more real, if you think that all wealthy people just want more money so that other people have less, you're never going to allow yourself to fully to make more money, because we have that limiting belief attached to it. Or if rich people, that they all just inherited their money and they never worked a day in their life and they don't know the meaning of a dollar, right? There are these limiting beliefs just laced all over that, to where you will never allow yourself to become something that you don't appreciate, that you don't admire. It kind of kinks off the hose from money to you. So an easy place to start is just like, what do you think about people with money? Like, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts about people with money? The people that I know with money do a lot of good in the world because I intentionally surround myself with people who do amazing things in the world. So that's, the lens that I see people with money
Yeah.
through. But that's not always the case. And Laura, I know you have like a story, a more personal story about this one too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dad notoriously would say things about wealthy people being greedy, or all wealthy people are crooks, or
Mm-hmm.
everybody who's wealthy has a little bit of larceny in them. So there was this inherent like belief that if you have a lot, it's because that you are morally inferior to me and my
Mm.
family. Like it was really big, and I think that even like there's a tribal aspect of it. It's like, well, my family always struggled around money. So I always felt safer in circles of other people that struggled around money because we're all the same. And I also
Mm-hmm.
subconsciously put people with money on some pedestal that was above me, as if they were special or they were chosen or that wasn't going to be my life. And so I disqualified myself from that perspective. Very young. And, I grew up with my parents went bankrupt. I forget what age I was, but they couldn't afford me to send me on my senior trip. I couldn't have a yearbook. My aunt bought me a $700 car. So in the stages of my life where money mattered more, like as a teenager, we had none. We had none. And that like combined with um, me having secret nasty thoughts about wealthy people. I didn't start out in a great position. Like it wasn't a great start to my money story.
Yeah, there was some deconditioning that had to happen
Yeah.
there for
Right.
sure, for sure. Yeah, the it, kind of a different spin on that. I remember growing up and my dad being like the Mr. Celebration Station, of like, we're gonna spend like we have $1 million in the bank. We're gonna have a good time. Like we have $1 million in the bank. He has a quote that he still says to this day of like, "Oh, it's just money. We'll make more." And there is a part of that that is really awesome. And then the double edged side of that is that in my 20s, when I was broke AF, I was like, it's just money. We'll make more of it. And I got into a shit ton of debt that way.
Yeah.
So there's there's a balance here that we want to strike too. But I think that even if you were raised with more financially aware parents, that there's
Yeah.
probably still something here for you, either from your parents or society or what it means to have money. Like I'd be curious what resonates for all of you here, what comes up
Yeah.
for everyone. Yeah.
And when I realized that having more money amplified my ability to do good in the world, then I fully opted in at that point. And for me, it was like a thunderclap moment with a coach that I've shared about a lot of times. But even at our recent mastermind, the one of the guys who was leading it is a author, and we found out he makes $2 million a month in dividends from his books that he's written. And he said, my job, everybody in this room who is good should have money. Everybody who is good deserves and should have a lot of money. Because if a lot of people in the world who are good had a lot of money, the world would be a better place. And then
Mm-hmm.
he like posed the question of like the super wealthy, like are all the super wealthy the good guys? Maybe not. And
Yeah.
so I think that part of our culture is designed so that the working class has a certain thought about money, and the wealthy have a different thought about money, and the wealthy have a more accurate understanding of how money works, which gives
Yeah.
them an advantage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I can't imagine making $2 million a year off of book sales like that. That I don't
That'd be
know.
great.
I don't
How
know
fun would
how
that be?
it would be wonderful. I just like my brain can't even wrap around it yet. It's wild. It's wild to me. It's wild to me in the best way. Um,
Yeah.
but it kind of leads us into our next point here. Something else that Laura and I've known for a while, but was reiterated at this mastermind was that money wants to circulate, not accumulate, right? Of like we are as coaches, as healers, as conscious, well-intending entrepreneurs, we are the receivers of money. We're not the makers of money. We're not the stashers of money. We're not trying to accumulate, like $5 million in the bank so that we have infinite amount of safety. Like
Mm-hmm.
money wants to move. Money is an energy. And I want to check in with you to see if you have any more to say about that, but we could share
Yeah.
what we just did here.
Yeah. Right. Well, like spending creates momentum. So if you think of, I always think of like a circle. And so when I spend, I'm putting money out, and then that creates a vacuum, and then with intention more comes in behind it. But there's this sense that if I stop spending, or especially if I stop giving, or I come from a place of like I really want to hold on to it because I'm afraid, then money
Mm-hmm.
waits to come to me. It slows down
Mm-hmm.
and I've experienced this so many times. It's so similar energetically to being single and looking for love and can't find anyone, and then the minute you give up, suddenly everybody's knocking on your door. Like there's a very
Mm-hmm.
similar energy there with money. Money, there's a lot of similarities there with how it seems to operate in the world. There's an attractant and a repellent, and so our job is to increase our attractants and decrease our repellents.
Mm-hmm.
And then money comes from really weird places. Like it's not just from how many hours you work or from the job. It's like strange things like pipes bursting and then giving you exactly what you need to pay off a bill that you were hoping to pay off. And
Yeah.
it's like strange ways that, checks that come in the mail from like 10 years ago from Kaiser Permanente not giving me breaks in a class action lawsuit that I didn't know I was a part of, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes from everywhere. It comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a story here that I think could be helpful to know too, because I think for me and you still too, Laura, whenever we get stressed, like our grasp on money like clamps up. We could
Mm-hmm.
look at our bank account and what the number that used to provide me comfort, I can twist it and be like, that's not enough. That's not enough runway. Like it can, the number is
Yeah.
not really reflective of anything concrete, but it was helpful for me to hear the story of or to hear the story of entrepreneurs who have kids, and like whenever you are um going to have a baby, you're in a big transition. You kind of don't know what the next few months are going to look like. It's going to be challenging, and so for a few months it might feel correct to stockpile a little extra and pad the savings to give you some breathing room. And then, say the baby comes, it's all fine and good. We're here. We got our head above water. We're tired AF, but we're still moving forward. Then again, there's like this permission to exhale and to resume business as normal. Our mentor shared a story with us about how when his son was born, he like stockpiled $1 million in cash in his bank account because he was freaked out that he might never want to work ever again. And then he's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, and then like 10 weeks passed and then I was fine. And then I could go back to it, investing and circulating. And, the train kept moving. But I think where our employee brain used to derive safety from consistent paychecks from the hospital, from the clinic, from the whatever, we have to find a way to create safety differently now.
Yeah.
Like the role of entrepreneurship is just always a role, whether it's $100,000 month and then a $5,000 month, or a $300,000 month and then $100,000 month. Like the swing exists. So how do we build capacity to ride the swing? And I honestly think that if you can stand to donate, to circulate, to go out in the world, that's an easy way to
Yeah.
release our attachment here.
Yeah, I feel like that's like such a good segue into the next one, that successful entrepreneurs think about money totally different from working class people. And what I mean by working class people is I mean people that are W-2, that their life revolves around a predictable amount deposited every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just a much different way. Essentially, you have a cap on the amount of energy that can come to you, and it's pulsed in this really predictable way. And then your whole life revolves around that pulse, and there isn't a whole lot of time spent thinking about or contemplating other ways that could expand or change. And I think that entrepreneurs are always experiencing finding new problems in the world, having a creative idea, finding new ways to earn money, finding different income streams. Like, it's so different than my money mindset when I had a W-2 job is like, gosh, if I could just stop spending money and save, I'm going to get ahead. Like, the only way to get ahead was saving or working overtime. And
Yeah.
both made me feel dead inside.
Yeah.
I wasn't good at either.
I
I was
have to
not good at
give
either.
I have to give more of my soul to make more money. That sucks. That
Yeah.
super sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And
Totally.
not that we can't do that temporarily, but I think, we have lots of I have lots of new mentees that are full time, and we talk about this. It's like, when you're working full time or you're working lots of hours and you're starting this business, there is two ways to look at it. It's one, that your job's slowing you down and you're just daydreaming about leaving, or it's like deep gratitude for the every 2 weeks infusion of resources that come into your world that give you more space to then build
Mhm.
capital invested in your business. And so I think a lot of times, especially at the stage that a lot of our listeners are at, starting a business is, there's a light at the end of the tunnel that you can see. You're not sure how far away it is or how long it's going to take, but you might be able to save more and spend less because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It just gives you more capacity to look at things and to do things differently. And I know
Yeah.
that was the case for my family. It was temporarily it's going to be tight, temporarily it's going to feel this way, to hopefully for the rest of our lives feel different, which was what happened in our family, and it's happened
Mhm.
for so many of our clients. But
Yeah.
what other ways, like, do entrepreneurs think about money? I have a great story that just happened that I'll share too, but
Mhm. Yeah, I think that it's like there is both like a detachment and a respect for it, right? So like if you talk to somebody who's a serial entrepreneur, say that they like fundraise money for startups or some, like they're an investor of some kind. There's this way that they talk about money of like, yeah, we just have to find like $5 million to get this project off the
yeah.
ground, and I will go see where the $5 million is going to come from. It's not this like, oh, I have to figure out how to make $5 million so that I can get this thing off the ground. There's I kind of like having a hard time of labeling it, but there's this trust with that the
Yes.
money will come, and that there are natural highs and lows, and that's not indicative of anything going wrong. But I think that, like, I've heard the term or heard the phrase that like wealthy people don't invest their own money into anything, right? Like they fundraise, they crowdsource, they whatever. um to where here in coaching land, it's hard to view it that way because we are investing our own time, energy, money into our practice, right? There's not like at least not yet, there's not like a coaching fairy going around granting scholarships to hire
Mm-hmm.
business coaches. So I think that I can see the gap that we're wrestling with here of like, we're conditioned as nurses to work 12-hour shifts to get this amount of paycheck, and then Laura and I are here being like, no, just dream a little bigger and use money differently. And you're like, how? Like how do I do that, right? And so there's a bit of a trust fall that happens, I don't know, probably around like year 2 or 3, in being able to step in or cultivate this new relationship with money. Like, it takes time. It takes time
Yeah,
to
it does.
unpack.
I think it took about 5 years from the time I started moving with it differently to the time where it was effortless and it was just the way that I thought and felt about it.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was about 5 years from like learning any of these concepts for the first time to being in a totally different headspace around money. And um, my husband and I are both entrepreneurs now. We don't have any W-2s in our family, except for from our own business that pays us. But we had our son's birthday this Saturday at 8:30 at night. We get an email from our tax people that we owe $54,000 in federal taxes. This is April 13th, by the way. So Monday is April 15th. So essentially, we get an email Saturday night, can't talk to anybody, saying, hey, by the way, you have to make $54,000 payment on Monday, or you're going to get penalties. And the last Q4 strategy meeting that we pay a lot of money for, we were getting $10,000 back. So it's a $64,000 swing that happened on a Saturday night, 2 days before it was due. And my husband smashed a cupcake he had one moment. he smashed a cupcake. We went to bed. I didn't lose any sleep. I woke up in the morning and immediately I went into the space of like, okay, what's spirit trying to teach us? Like, what's the teachable moment? There's a reason why this is happening. Well, one way to look at it is that I probably have to create something to fill that gap. If we really are going to be paying this amount of money on Monday, then there's a creative way that money wants to it's already on its way to us. And we have to just identify that creative way and then align with it. And so I told Evan, I was like, hey, we'll just run a couples coaching program. It'll be on every other Sunday night. It'll be this amount of money. We'll work with 8 different couples. We'll invite them to our retreat center at the end of the year. That equals about $54,000. It could probably take us 3 to 4 weeks to launch it and fill it. Maybe the universe just wants us to help people. And he said, yeah, that sounds good. And so I hadn't even told Shelby yet because we have other things going on and that would have kind of sucked to have to start another company or start another thing. And then we got an email. Oh, sorry, made a mistake. You actually only owe 4 on tax day. So, this is my belief is that if Evan and I had freaked out, gotten angry, shut down, we wouldn't have got that second email. That's my belief. It truly is. Like, I swear to God, I believe that if him and I had not taken that initiation challenge in the mindset that we were able to get to, we would have been taught the lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
I do. And I know it's crazy probably to like newbie people listening to this, like, Laura's lost her mind. It's like, no, I haven't. Like, I really think that that's the reality. I do.
Yeah.
Truly.
Man, talk to a small business owner during tax season and you're going to get a really raw version of somebody during those 2 weeks. I didn't know you told me the story up until the $54,000 part. So
we just got that last night.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm not even up to speed on that story. That's awesome. Yeah. We also had a similar yo-yo, much quicker than yours of like we got what we owed for taxes. It was way more than 4K. And I looked at Rob and I was like, okay, we have enough money to pay that, right? And he's like giving me like big saucer eyes of like, I don't know where that money is. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I felt like the Jennifer Lawrence meme when she's eating hot wings. She's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And there was about a 15-minute time span. I was like, Rob, I know that it's somewhere. Like, we just have to find it. I know that you did not blow all of this money on something stupid. Where is it? And there was about a 15-minute moment where I'm like, okay, this is fine. We're going to be fine. We'll figure it out. Like, yeah, this is a gnarly loop, but we'll figure it out. And can you imagine if both Laura and I had to generate like over 6 figures in 3 days? Like, oh my God, who knows what that would have done. But he had the money in a different account than he thought he did, right? Like, it was there the whole time. We paid it. No big deal. We move on. But even rewinding like 5 or 6 years ago when I first started my practice, we lived, I promise this is relevant, but we lived where it was really cold. Our house ran off propane, and about every 6 weeks we would get like a $2,000 bill for propane to fill our house. And where we lived in New York State, I didn't have the option to heat my home. It was negative below zero for 6 months out of the year. It was so cold. And Rob and I would get into an argument every 6 weeks about this damn propane bill. And it would rock us so hard over this $2,000 bill, which was very expensive for us at the time because I wasn't working and I was limping along in my coaching practice. And at some point, like, we knew that the propane bill was coming and I knew that he was going to open it. And I was like, listen, we're going to figure it out. I just kind of need you to freak out about it over there. Like, I cannot be rattled by this because my money mindset is too fragile. You know, like in the beginning, I was so much more of a baby about it. To where now, like, that makes me laugh now. But it's like we both started in a fragile place. So if you are also too here being like, I don't trust, I am not sure. Every bill that I get in the mail is rattling to me. And like, we totally get that. And I hope that what shines through here is like is the potential for it to be different, for for you to get a $54,000 bill and come up with a solution in 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And then not need the solution and believe that the reason why the coming up with the solution was the whole reason for the freak out and the whole reason.
Right.
Yeah. So this is our language creates our financial reality. This is number 4. And even just in the way that we used to talk about money, like the freak out with Rob. Evan used to get the credit card bill and then he would just be unkind for 3 days, but then like gaslight me and pretend like he wasn't being unkind and he was being supportive. And it was his face looked different. He creased his eyes. He was nervous because he was having thoughts of, we're never going to get out of debt, or we're never going to, this means more overtime. So it was just like this relationship to this credit card bill. And it didn't really matter what the number was. It was like a habitual way of relating to money that was constant. And by the way, you can have $20 million in the bank and still have this response. There are people with money that don't act like they have money and have a really terrible response. But language creates our financial reality. So just watching how you talk about money. I live here in East Tennessee, and when I go to the grocery store, everybody talks to you, which I love. In the South, we're just much more friendly. And in California, not so much. But if I'm looking at like cheese or milk or something in the aisle, someone next to me very frequently be like, oh, can you believe how expensive everything is? And that's just how people bond here. Yeah. It's like bonding over the price of groceries. And we don't say the word expensive anymore in our family. We have changed our language. So nothing is expensive, because saying something's expensive implies that you can't have it or that it's too much. And so a better language for that is, it's just not aligned right now. Right. It's not aligned for us. And Evan and I still catch each other with expensive. So we're constantly like working on it. But things like that make a big difference. So just watching how you talk about money, or I'm really trying to save, I just have so many bills, or, oh my gosh, gas is so expensive. This is so expensive. This is so expensive. Like if that's your mantra and that's your language, it's just, it's a repellent to money to talk about it that way, which is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You'll probably start to notice this as you grow and evolve most with like your family and friends it. And I don't mean this in a purely negative way. But I think the way that we relate to one another so much is through our hardship, and the phrase misery loves company comes to mind. So this is where, it can be hard. It can be hard to talk about the new reality that you're creating, because it can create a disconnect with you and your family and your friends. Of like, I have friends who have told me that they don't want to talk to me about how much money they make, because they know that I make so much more than them, and it makes them uncomfortable. And that like pokes my heart a little bit, because I'm like, ugh, like I don't want this to be the reason that people feel uncomfortable around me, but also like I'm not in control of how people feel. Like that's on them at the same time.
Right.
But it has shifted personal relationships for me too. Like friends I've had for decades. It's new. It's you're all finding like a new thing to bond over, other than like being broke all the time.
Right. Yeah, it's like trauma bonding over being broke is a thing.
For sure. Especially when you all went to college together, and that was like a really big deal. Yeah. It's it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. Okay. Well, number 5 here, we'll pick up our pace, or else this is going to be like a 5-hour episode of that. Not all debt is bad. I should also add something about a credit score in here to intentionally irritate Rob, because him and I argue about credit scores all the time. And I'm like, it's a made up number. It doesn't matter. But a lot of folks relate to debt with shame and with guilt. And it comes, like there's a lot of baggage that comes with the word debt.
Yeah. And one way I was taught to talk about debt when you're paying it off or when you're working with it is to look at debt as
future blessings
received. Debt is making payments on blessings already received.
Go ahead.
Okay, so another way to look at debt is that you are making payments on blessings already received, which in that way of looking at it, you have gratitude as you pay instead of shame as you pay. So that can be really, really helpful. And not all debt is bad. Appreciating assets versus depreciating assets. We own real estate, so it's not bad to buy an appreciating asset with somebody else's money. If the numbers work, it's fantastic. And it's not bad to invest in your business because your business is an appreciating asset. It's not bad to take an investment as a startup seed in a business. I think where people have fear is figuring out how much risk it is. It's risky to open a restaurant. It's very low risk to open a nurse coaching business, just for clarity there. Yeah.
The overhead alone is minimal.
Yeah.
Minimal.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes right into number 6, which is tax code is written for entrepreneurs, not for W-2 workers. So if you do not own a business, there's no business if you're married, if you have no business between you, if you're both W-2 workers, you are getting shafted with taxes more so than any other class in the United States. So tax code is written for entrepreneurs, for wealthy people, and for real estate owners. Having a home-based business, a small home-based business, as long as it makes some income, it's okay if it takes a loss for up to 2 years. That the IRS expects that, allows you to write off so many things and lower your tax liability. Everybody should always have a home-based business. And you could probably learn about that even if you weren't opening a coaching practice with 20 hours of research and probably save $20,000 to $30,000 in taxes for a median double income family. I think that's really fascinating. No one ever taught me that. It's so bananas to me how important it is to always have a business and be an entrepreneur just to survive tax code in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. Make the system work for you, baby. Make it work for you. Watch this episode get taken down by our FBI agent or something. He's listening. All right.
Too much truth.
Too much. All right. Number 7, more money is not more problems. More money is an amplifier for whatever you feel, who you are, or what you do. So there's a lot of beliefs around money. I think that some religions have done a really great job of demonizing money, of making it something not to want. And I see the foundation of where they're coming from on that. I'm like, if you're only in the pursuit of money, yeah, it's probably going to poison your brain and turn you into a terrible person. But kind of recycling back to our previous point of like, if more intentionally good people had more money to make a greater impact in the world, like, man, life would be so different. Like, genuinely, it would be so different. I think that we could take care of the world from a much more deeply rooted place. You want to speak to it amplifying whatever's already there?
Yeah, you guys have all seen and heard the stories of like lotto winners that get a huge windfall of money and then their lives totally fall apart. It's because money is energy and you have to expand your capacity to hold it, work with it, circulate it, all the things we're talking about. And so it will amplify whatever. So if you have if your coping mechanism is spending and you get a huge flux of money, then you're going to spend in different ways, which is going to cause harm. And a lot of times people think that having more money is going to make them happier. And nobody says that happiness comes from money. But if you're already happy and you have more money, it can amplify that. If you're miserable and you make a lot of money, it can amplify that. So that's the way that you have to look at it. And we always hear like more money, more problems. Yes and no. So if money is your entire identity, you can have problems with that because you're always worried about losing it, not making more, or somebody taking it. But if money is your preference, and my favorite saying is that money is wonderful and worth having. And when given the preference, I always prefer more.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need, there's no desire, there's no attachment, there's no expectancy that I have to have it to be happy. There's this deep, like loving preference for more because it's wonderful. That's kind of like my relationship and my mantra now around it. So as I make more or hold more or have more, I'm expanding my capacity through that distinction of preference versus like addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It reminds me of like the stages of empowerment, into where
Yeah.
if you're forever stuck in the power by achievement, which is an external source of empowerment, then you're forever stuck in the loop, right? So
Right.
if
It's never
you're
enough.
you're just going to keep going and going and going, and that is a way to just slowly drain the life out of your soul, um, versus having an internal source of empowerment, you know, to where it comes from a divine source, an inner connection, that's more endless and more fulfilling than like those two things, money and this deep sense of inner empowerment, can work well together, rather than us always
Yeah.
chasing the carrot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ooh, Shelby, you got to bring this one. This one's great.
Yeah, I like this one. I like this one. Tolerating things is scarcity in disguise. So let's pause for a moment, and I invite everybody to like take a deep breath and take the next 30 seconds thinking about everything in your life that you tolerate. So this could range from the car that you drive, from the toothbrush you have, to the sheets that you've had since college, from the cooking pans that you use to cook dinner every night, where the nonstick is like gone and your food always sticks to it. Like, where are you tolerating tangible things in your
Yeah.
life? And I find that once our nurse coaches start to have some momentum, start to have some success, then we have to also upgrade their money mindset in order to do that as well. Like, we had a client, she's going to know exactly who I'm talking about, but I promise I'm not going to say your name. She had her biggest month ever last month of 17K, which is phenomenal. And, but she was telling, I asked her to make this list of like, where she's tolerating things in her life, and it was little things of like, her toothbrush, and she wanted a certain, you know, like workout outfit, and
Yeah.
certain underwear. Like, the list was really affordable. It was really she wanted a walking pad for her desk, right? Like, these were things much within her means, and I just asked her to buy everything on the list. Like, stop tolerating, because by not honoring your wants and your needs, uh, it's sending scarcity energy into the world. Like, as if you're not going to have enough to buy the preferred type of toothpaste next month, right? Like,
Right.
there's I think of what I love to intentionally spend money on. So I love to intentionally spend money on food, like really high quality food. I like to spend money on high quality clothes, even though I don't have a lot of them. Like, the stuff that I buy, it's an investment, and I really prefer that. I don't really care about like purses or bags, so I'm not going to care. Like, you know, I'm not tolerating my purse at the moment, but choosing what you intentionally want to spend money on, and then doing that is really important for the circulation of money, for one, but then also increasing your capacity for more.
Yeah. Shelby and I went on a retreat last year, and we both showed up with the same expensive pajamas because we had both been tolerating crap pajamas, and
Yeah.
somehow we got the same ad. And
Yeah.
they're Tommy John, by the way. We love them. They're so
Yeah.
good. I just bought some more. That's the only ones I want. And I don't even
Yeah.
like patterns. Like, I like black. I like only like solids, because it's always like when you open your pajama drawer, you know which ones you're stoked when they're clean, and the
Yeah.
ones that you're grabbing because you're like, damn it, I got to do laundry. I'm going to wear this
Uh-huh.
crap tonight.
Yeah.
Get rid of all the ones that you don't want to put on your body to sleep in, and just get
Yeah.
more of the ones so you never have a negative pajama drawer experience. Like, it's important in our money mindset, like these little things. And I could have bought a Range Rover, but I liked my Kia better, and I bought a
Yeah.
Kia, and the Kia was fantastic. So this doesn't mean extravagant, like, at all. It's not like, and maybe it is like, you know, maybe a
Mm-hmm.
car is your thing. I'm not a purse person either. But you better believe I'm going to spend some money on some sheds on my property that are really cute, or like
Yeah.
a high-end chicken coop. Like I have my eye
Yeah.
on a $5,000 chicken coop. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so this framework is from Ramit Sethi. He has a podcast, I Will Teach You How to Be Rich. And he talks his framework that he guides people through is what is your rich life? Define it. Like, what is it? So if it is the
yeah,
Ferrari and you can afford the Ferrari, go get the Ferrari. Like, why deny
yeah,
what you want? And I think that our wants and our dreams and our desires are on purpose. Like, they're not frivolous, they're not luxuries, they're not they don't they count, right? They you have your dreams, you have your vision, you have your preferences on purpose. And if we build this wonderful life, if we're in pursuit of the vision of this coaching practice where you get to serve people and help them in a way that feels good, take care of yourself, feel good, like have the fancy office chair, right? Have things that elevate your energy so that you can step up and be a really epic, awesome coach. It is very important.
yeah. Yeah, and if you were listening to the word Ferrari and instantly it was like, oh, I can't listen to these privileged white girls anymore. They have no idea. They're totally lost. Like, they have no touch the reality. Like, I get that because a Ferrari's not my thing. And to be honest, even the name, still have an innate response to it.
Yeah.
But if that is your response, the reason why I don't care about people with Ferraris or like the Hallmark wealthy things, like fancy cars, fancy bags, fancy diamonds, yachts, private jets, like the
Dude,
token
I could get down
rich
on a
people
yacht.
stuff.
I could get
I
down
could
on
get
a
down on
yacht.
a private jet. I'm not gonna lie. If we're gonna do one, that would be it. But if you believe that money is finite, as in there's only a certain amount in the world, and so if you have more, it means someone else gets less. It's never going to feel good to fulfill your wants. You're always going to be
Right.
somebody who's thinking, but I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that.
Yeah.
And if you believe that it's infinite, that it basically is created, it's imaginary, it's energy. There's an infinite amount. It's just how much you tune into. This is a different way of looking at it. Then you don't ever feel guilty if you want a Ferrari, because you having a Ferrari does not affect some kid in Africa. Now, this leads us to our last one, is that if you're going to be wealthy, you're going to give money away.
Yeah.
Right. And Victor Bach says we need to give at least 1 to 3%. As soon as money comes in, give at least that much out. So it's like it's constantly circulating. You don't save it all up till the end of the year and then figure out how much you want to give for your tax return. No, you're constantly giving something out monthly. And I mean, in the church world, 10% is a recommended tithing. There's something really beautiful about that. Like regularly giving. And that means the more that you make, the more that you give. It has like a dual purpose. There's more to it. It's not all your preferences, but your preferences are part of it. I think that that's key here in upgrading our money consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it took a long time for me. I have inherently nice, luxurious preferences. I don't walk into a store and only pick something because it's expensive, of like I don't want the most expensive couch because it's the most expensive couch. But like it's a joke that I have with Rob whenever I'm scrolling through Instagram and I get ads and I'm like, oh, let's see how much this thing is, because I'm sure it's over $10,000 because that's just the things that I like. And I'm almost never wrong. Everything that comes across my feed is over 10 grand. And do I buy everything? No, I do not. But finding like honoring, like right now I have for the first time, I have a private chef downstairs right now cooking some of our meals for the week. And I have dragged my feet for 18 months on this luxury, right? Or what I perceive to be a luxury. It's actually really incredibly affordable. I was very surprised. It was like a fourth of what I thought it was going to cost. But there's also this this concept that I heard a while ago that in other cultures, I think it's in India, to where if you make a certain amount of money every year, then you are expected to have a house cleaner, to have a nanny, to have somebody come and cook your meals as a way to recycle or to like push money out, right? Like you're paying for
Yeah.
services, you're giving back to your community. And I think that, again, I would much rather pay somebody X amount of dollars to come and cook 3 really wonderful meals for us every single week than like go spend the same amount of money at a fast food joint every single week, right? Like if I got to
Right.
choose my preference, that's the preference. And it's almost the same amount of money, which is bananas.
Right. Right. But your perception was that it was a luxury and that it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yeah.
I've been here dragging my feet forever.
We are looking for a house manager, and the way that I think of it is like who wants to be blessed. Like there's somebody in my community that if they hear about this job description and what it pays, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is an answer to my prayers. It's exactly what I was looking for. I love running a household. My kids are grown. I wanted to make some extra money, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you look at it that way, that it's not you being greedy or lazy, but that it's you blessing the right person with an amazing role to support you in. That's like an upgraded money mindset. I'm super proud of you that you have meals being cooked. I'm jealous too. I haven't found anybody here.
I can smell it. I can smell it. It smells so good. Yeah, in the same way of like hiring a VA or, of like, could you program all of your emails and your social media posts? Yes. Does offloading that onto someone else free up your bandwidth to do the thing that you're really, really good at, and also have somebody on your team that's awesome? And like, there's so many benefits to delegation, and it's an easy way, I think, to circulate money with purpose for me. That's at least the framework I have for it right now. So we'll keep you posted. See if I can tolerate this level of support, and for how long I can tolerate this level of support.
If you're feeling especially graspy today, maybe tax time, had a negative effect, whatever your circumstances are. One thing I love to do when that feeling arises is just to pay for the person behind me at Starbucks. To go to Starbucks, to go through the drive-thru and pay for the person's drink behind me. There's something about that relinquishing that whatever that dollar amount is, $5 to $20 depending. One time I paid for the car behind me and it was like a big order, and they're like, "Are you sure, ma'am?" And I'm like, "Yep, that's what the universe wants me to do." Didn't know they were going to be getting coffees for their entire organization right behind me.
Yep.
That's a great first step, and it can feel really good. And we've got lots of stories of people doing that and then signing their first big high ticket client, or this happens all the time in our coaching containers. We have so much anecdotal evidence. It's insane. So that's always something you have in your back pocket, you guys, as you're upgrading your money consciousness. Just give a little bit away when you're feeling graspy.
Good place to end. This was a marathon. Thanks for hanging in, everyone.
Yeah.
It wasn't a conscious decision to time this episode around tax season, but go us. I think that's super well timed. Super well timed. Okay, team, we will see you same time, same place next week. Come join us in the Facebook group, and have a good week. See you next Monday.
Bye.